Councilwoman Donovan. Mayor Buckle-Fusco.
Here.
Councilman Rondinero.
Here.
Councilman Levis.
Here.
And Councilwoman Kinney is absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing in memory of our troops and our first responders and their families. Thank you. Okay, next we have the workshop discussion, and I have a few things that I would like to let council know, just bring them up to date on a few things that have been happening. Talking about Silver Lake, the DEP tested the water of the lake on July 31st, and we received a report from them that they found a small amount of this cyanobacteria. It comes from blue-green algae, and it's the type that would give off toxins. And they issued an advisory alert level, and as part of that, we were required to post signs around the lake, which some of you may have seen if you walk around the lake. But the signs basically look like this: purple, orange. But you know, the funny thing about it is the things we're not supposed to do are the things we generally don't do anyway. It's like they advise against obviously swimming, standing in the water, having pets in the water, eating the fish from the water, or drinking the water. They also have us, use caution if you're using a paddle boat in the lake. I don't think we permit paddle boats in the lake, but you can have a regular boat in the lake, which I don't think we permit either. So you will see these around there, and I don't know what the next step is. Maybe, I don't know, Billy, if you know, will they advise us, test it again and advise us if it's been cleared up, or we just leave these up for now?
Yeah, we'll leave them up for now. Lake management science, they come back next month, they'll test the water again, and we'll see if it improves, and if it does, then we'll take the signs down.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have the reports from our vendor who treats the lake. It was treated on July 11th, and it was also treated on August 4th. And it's really, they're looking for algae also and plants, and they put in some kind of a treatment into the lake to try to prevent those things from growing any further. So, I assume, and it's Lake Management Sciences, I assume they'll be back next month and they'll be checking it out. And if we hear further from the DEP, we'll let everybody know. Okay, the next thing is the bid for the geese removal service. It's almost completed. I was in the process of reviewing the entire language of the RFP as of Thursday, and I really was trying to complete it by yesterday, but a couple of things came up over the weekend, personal things, and I wasn't able to do any work on it. So I'm going to get to it as soon as possible. There's just a little bit more that I need to do, and then I'll be giving it to our purchasing department to do whatever they do to get it out to the public. On some shorter items, the tax bills will be going out by mail tomorrow. The Seafood Festival. There was a question at the last meeting about how much money we made. At this point, it looks like it's $51,985.46. And that's the profit from the festival. There was also a question at the last meeting about revenue from the sign that we have on Route 35 by the marina. As of, I guess, this month, from the beginning of the year, we've taken in $4,450. It's a little hard to get it down to the penny because the sign has been out of commission a lot because it's, I think, over 15 years old and is actually in need of replacement. So, you know, we really need to think about replacing that sign so that when a vendor, you know, opts to advertise on it, they know they're going to get the whole entire month or whatever it is that they're contracting us for in terms of their advertisement. But that's what it is, and we're looking at options in terms of replacing that sign. Okay, the last item I have is there was a discussion at the last meeting about the property at 12th and Main, and I had to refresh my own memory as to what was going on with that, and I'm just going to bring you up to date with what I found. As of now, the site is being managed by Gibson and Stattle Environmental Inc. and Kevin Stattle, and they're licensed site remediation professionals. You may have heard the term LSRP, which basically means that they are approved by DEP to do what they need to do without having to go back to DEP to get them to check out things and test it. They were appointed by Resolution 2022-191 on November 29th, 2022. And as we know, there was $300,000 held from the proceeds of the sale of that property. It was held to ensure that we, would pay for the site remediation and it's properly completed in accordance with the NJDEP regulations. At the time of the purchase, the soil and the groundwater was contaminated, as we pretty much all know. In December of that year, of 2022, actually December 27th, G&S, Gibson and Stattle sent a letter to the business administrator saying basically that this is what their agreement was with them. They would test the groundwater for 1 year. They monitor it using monitoring wells, and I believe there are 4 at the present time. They've already done, I think, 1 quarterly monitor for that. And also, it says they will install 4 permanent groundwater monitoring wells. And when we get to the point where we're going to propose remedial excavation, they'll be, part of that team. Our engineer, Jim Morris, obviously has recommended that the contaminated soil be removed and replaced with clean fill. And when we get to that point, we'll be working with him and GNS to remove the soil and replace it with clean fill. So that's where we're at in terms of the status of that property and the cleanup. Okay, any questions?
I would just add about the geese and the lake that I know I will be going. I believe Kevin is going on Thursday. We're going to have a meeting with the Environmental Commission about that issue as well. So this has been a high-touch issue for all of us. We know how concerned everyone is, and we're really hoping to get to a good resolution on it.
Okay, that's all I have for the workshop. Anyone else?
I'd like to bring one thing up, Mayor. I received an email today about some recent legislation that was passed about these boom car rallies. I was just wondering if any action could be taken on our step to pass a resolution or an ordinance to enforce that, or are we already allowed to enforce basically with the state statute now?
Well, I think it was literally signed today.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to read through the whole thing.
No, I didn't get it.
But it looks like it's an amendment of an existing statute, and and they just added, vehicles to it, along with ATVs and other things. So I'm going to let our esteemed counsel take a look at that when he has a chance, and I'm sure he'll let us know if there's anything we need to do. I did notice there was a section on towing vehicles and taking vehicles and it did say something about the Attorney General's office would be submitting guidelines to, I guess, the police departments on how that whole process will take place.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure the chief will probably be getting some advisory on when I looked at it quickly, it said, you're in violation if I can hear the sounds from your car from 50 feet away. But, that's going to be
What it,
ticklish thing.
yeah, it looked like it increased the fine significantly too,
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
tiered structure for third offenders and so on and so forth. So
I'm sure we'll have more discussion about that as
Yeah.
we get more.
I think we should,
involved with
because
that.
it'll be great to not have our hands tied, you know.
Yeah, no, that will be great.
Yeah.
That will be
And
great.
the fines are pretty significant. I mean, it's no less than $250 to $500 for the first offense. And then I think $750, and then it goes up to $1,000, and also will be 2 motor vehicle penalty points. So I think that will scare people into really being quiet around Belmar and treating our community with respect.
And since we're talking about new legislation too, I think many of us know that there was a new pay-to-play law that was updated by the state, and I just wanted to let everyone know that it's still called the Elections Transparency Act, and a local finance notice just came out recently to the boroughs and towns and cities about how that's going to work. The thing that's relevant to us is that the state pay-to-play law now preempts local play-to-pay laws. So we need to, again, punt this one to Mr. McGill, and he'll have to take a look at our pay-to-play laws and see if there's, I'm sure most of that's going to have to be basically removed from the code, but I'm sure they'll take a look at it and let us know what we have to do. So I just wanted to let you know that's probably coming down the pike at some point in the future. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have some information on Healthy Hop Transportation, and I put some flyers out in the front. This is a free transportation service called Healthy Hop Transportation. It's for people aged 60 years and older to get to their medical appointments without any stress or worry. So I will make sure, I'm pretty sure it's already on our website, and we have it in the library. I'll get it to our Belmar Housing Authority. But as you walk out, you can even Google Healthy Hop if you want to get a free ride to staying healthy.
It's great, and I know that traditional Medicare doesn't cover non-emergency medical transportation, so this is a really good option for people who are caregivers to spread that information around. I'd like to come in with your regular Verizon update. Okay. Some of you probably got an email from me yesterday with the regular update. I should add too that if you're not getting those emails and are interested, please see me. I can add you to that list. There was a lot of confusion all around as far as on my side, from me and from the county, about whether or not whatever Verizon submitted after the Taylor Pavilion meeting in May constituted a formal application to start construction of the towers. The county's position is that whatever they submitted was not an application. They didn't fulfill some of the requirements, for instance, a road use permit, in order to fulfill a full application. My understanding is that there was a 10-day deadline after any submission to push back and say that the application wasn't complete. Obviously, since this was in May, that's no longer applicable here. However, we have been talking to the county. They submitted a letter in response to Verizon's proposal, pushing back against it, outlining many ways that they felt that Verizon hadn't submitted an actual application at a minimum. And they reiterated their support for us here in Belmar. I should also tell you that some residents have secured private representation, and there is a brief that was submitted today a little after 5 o'clock with about 60 signatories from Belmar residents in support of the county's position and in opposition to the project. If you're interested in seeing that, please let me know. I can get you a copy of what was submitted as well. So that's where we are right now with Verizon. I think a lot is going on in flux right now. A lot will depend on how Verizon reacts to this, whether or not they want to bully their way forward to continue construction despite complete opposition from the town and from the county. whether they want to do that without talking to us, which I know we haven't been able to speak to them at all, right, since January. We hope that they will. If you're paying attention, Verizon, we hope that you will talk to us. We hope that you'll hear the voices of everyone in this room and throughout Belmar who don't want you to go forward with this project. And I will continue to update everyone as we hear more.
Thank you. Anything else for a workshop? Okay, let's move on. Petitions. Were there any petitions filed?
No, I did not receive any.
Okay, approval of minutes.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 25th meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckfusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondanero?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Okay, reports of council. Let's start with Councilman Donovan. I was going to start the other way.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, back to school enrichment program is going on at Belmar Elementary right now. My son is participating in the fishing club and loving it, although not swimming in Silver Lake. Movies on the Beach is continuing. This week, the proceeds, is it this week? Will go to the elementary school with their snack stand up there, so please come by and support. Finally, I really want to spend a minute thanking DPW, the police department, and particularly the Belmar lifeguards for the event that happened this past weekend, which was a 2-mile deep sand run benefiting the Run for Veronica Foundation. Veronica is the daughter of Belmar lifeguard Glenn Zenzenstein and his wife Jacqueline, and she sadly passed away on July 17th. She was a graduate of Trinity Hall, and the foundation itself was started by her in celebration of running, and proceeds go to the search for a cure for pediatric cancer, for research, and towards Make-A-Wish. I know this run and the cause meant a lot to a lot of people in the community, particularly the extended beach community. Councilwoman Rondanero and I were there, and the emotion was palpable, and people did an incredible job putting the event together, and everyone who ran that did an incredible job as well. So congratulations and thank you for the event, and of course our condolences to the family and to everyone affected by Veronica's life.
Okay, Councilwoman Rondanero.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add that Friday nights at Piano Plaza are just fantastic. Last week we thought we were going to get rained out, but we didn't. We saw Tommy B in the Deep Blue Sea. And this week we have 40 Winks. It's a great time to meet your neighbors, do a little bit of shopping, and enjoy Belmar Main Street. Let's see, September 10th, Sunday is the annual Autism Beach Bash. That's the largest event in New Jersey for individuals with an autism spectrum disorder. It's a one-of-a-kind surf experience with surfers healing, engaging activities, arts and crafts, live music, vendors. You can consider making a commitment to the annual event at autismbeachbash.org if you would like to donate. You certainly can participate. The surfers healing is closed up, but you certainly can still come and enjoy this event. I think we also have a surfing competition that same weekend as well, further down the beach, so it'll be a great time to be in Belmar. I also wanted to congratulate Belmar's Mark Spagnolio. He got 3rd place in his age category in paddling from Molokai to Oahu in the Molokai to Oahu World Championship. So that's our co-owner of Hojitos. So congratulations to Mark. Let's see, what else do I have here? The Belmar Housing Authority met yesterday and introduced their new budget, which goes into effect October 1st of this year through September 2024. They currently have 1 vacancy, and Executive Director DeSantis is going through the waiting list that's been accumulating since 2019. It is possible that in a few months they might reopen the application and wait list process, and it's been a while since that's been the case. Belmar residents do get first dibs at that. When I asked at the meeting yesterday when the repair will actually start using the metal channels, it seems that they have to wait to pass their budget in October to release the funds for the repair. But they're hoping they can get a bid out in September to find the contractor to do the work so that it can be started as soon as the budget is approved. The Housing Authority will use $365,000 of their surplus from years and years of obtaining surplus towards the facade issue. However, we're still looking towards about $2 million for the complete repair. Additionally, the elevator needs addressing sooner than later. One of the issues discussed regarding the aging elevator is the need to replace circuit bulbs. I'm going to look into some fundraising options for that. As a resident recently discussed the elevator temporarily failing last week and needing to walk up 6 flights of stairs. So this is a real issue, and it's a now issue, and residents are feeling concerned about taking the elevator in the building. So while we're waiting for HUD money and help from Congressman Smith, I think we need to look at additional sources of fundraising. I know there's one resident right now who's working on looking for sources of fundraising. If you know of an organization who'd like to be involved in fundraising, please let me know. The Belmar Housing Authority needs our help. The library. Library had their living presentation featuring Ulysses S. Grant. Was a great success this past Saturday. Over 40 people came out to travel back in time to meet the Army General and learn about his Army career and friendship with President Lincoln. This will be the first of several living history presentations where the library will bring in professional actors to portray important figures in history and give our patrons the ability to engage and interact with them. So stay tuned for our new living history events in the future. The library is happy to present a double whammy summer series concerts featuring the Danny White Band on August 15th and Tommy B and the Deep Blue Sea August 20th, both at 6 p.m. on the library's front lawn. Bring your lawn chairs and friends and enjoy some evenings with great music. The deadline for kids participating in library's summer reading scavenger hunt program to submit their reading progress and qualify for chances to win prizes is 8 p.m. Thursday, August 31st. The scavenger hunt celebration and awards event will be Saturday, September 9th at 11 a.m. at the library, when prizes will be announced and awarded. The library's lower level Tarzian Media Room now has posted schedule of quiet hours when the room is available for work study without interruptions from planned meetings and events. So now patrons can plan ahead when they need to use the room, work, or study. And you can visit belmarlibrary.org for any info or changes. I'd also like to thank Billy Musto for giving the mayor and I a tour of the DPW facilities and the freight house that have been talked about online so much. That was really interesting, and I think we've come up with some creative ideas. Thank you.
Councilman Levis?
Thank you, Mayor. Our last Harbor Commission meeting was canceled, so we don't have a lot, but I am happy to report that through the fast-acting efforts of Billy and our wonderful marina staff and our borough engineer and our grant writers, we have successfully applied for a boating infrastructure grant to make repairs and replacement to the fuel dock. The deadline was yesterday to apply, and they worked really hard to collect all this information, to do some scope documents and fulfill this application. There's two funding sources for it. There's state funding source and there's federal funding source. We're really hoping we can get that federal funding to make those repairs. I think anyone in here who's a boater understands that we are the only fuel dock in the Shark River. So the lifeblood of the entire, I'd say, boating industry within the Shark River for all the towns that surround it really depend on this. So it's much more than just Belmar that benefits from this. So good work on getting everything put together, and fingers crossed that we can secure some funds for this type of project. That's all I have.
Okay, let's move on to public session.
Anyone would like to speak about a resolution listed on the consent agenda, please step forward and state your name and address. Can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckles?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Okay, next we have second reading on ordinance 2023-13. This is an ordinance of the Borough of Belmar amending Chapter 19, creating a multi-way stop intersection. This is open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak on this ordinance, please step forward, state your name and address.
Mr. Creamer?
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue. I just need some clarification as to what intersection. I live on 4th Avenue. Is this the stop sign at the western end of 4th Avenue where it intersects River Avenue and Inlet Terrace?
Yes.
Okay, so I got the right
You're right in the right spot.
Okay. On 4th Avenue, there is an existing stop sign.
Correct.
And that's going to stay there?
Yes.
Okay. And then across at Inlet Terrace, there would be a new stop sign at 115 Inlet Terrace?
I think that sounds right. It's directly across from the stop sign on 4th Avenue. In other words, it would be
Okay.
from that corner right across.
That's perfect. And then the other one would be at, the other new stop sign would actually be at 419 4th Avenue.
Yeah, a new house. It's a new house. It's built a few years ago on the corner.
Okay, very good. Sound, that intersection, I take that often, and people really do fly around there, especially going from east to west. This sounds perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-13?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckles?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Next is second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2023-14. This is an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 42 Affordable Housing Development Fees with an updated development fee ordinance. If you would like to speak on this ordinance, please step forward, state your name and address.
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue. Yeah, this is one.
Sit next to you.
You can take Bill Burger's place. Yeah, I guess we have an existing affordable housing development fee ordinance since 2019. August of 2019, that became effective. I guess what my problem is with this appears that this would become, what would be the effective date? In other words, are we really repealing and reenacting the existing law? In other words, why in the world would we just start collecting money now when there has been in place an ordinance that became effective in August of 2019?
I'm going to start with my simplified version of an answer, and then I will punt it to the attorneys in the crowd. It's my understanding that the prior ordinance, as we had a discussion once before, was basically moot because we had no affordable housing plan in place at that point.
Right, it wasn't approved.
Right, it wasn't.
And we needed to get it approved, and we do have our affordable housing council here tonight discuss it if we need to go into it. The ordinance is different. It's not the same. It looks very similar, but it's not the same. And this, in fact, was approved by the court as part of our ongoing action to have our plan approved. So this is, it's the first step. And now, to answer your question, I think 20 days from now it'll be effective. 20? Right, it's not effective immediately. It's the same as most other ordinances, and it's 20 days.
Yeah, I guess where I have the problem with that is that we had, or currently have, a law that became effective in August of 2019.
But
Okay?
it wasn't effective, though, because it wasn't approved. Originally, they would have to be approved by COA. And then when COA no longer was functioning, it had to be approved by the court as part of your plan, your affordable housing plan. Since we didn't have a plan and we didn't have approval, we didn't have an effective ordinance. So rather, I suppose we could have approved the ordinance that we had on the books. However, times have progressed. That's a slightly different ordinance. If you look at the two ordinances, there's additional provisions in this one. Please don't ask me what they are. I read them for the last meeting. I don't have them off the tip of my tongue right now. But so it's a little different, and we have to enact this. And instead of just making changes, we repeal and then put the whole ordinance onto our books. And as I said, this has been reviewed by the court, and there's actually a court order approving this. So that work has been done. The work that we needed to do, you were asking that question earlier in the year, and my answer was, it's not approved, so we can't do anything. Well, now it's approved, so now it's going to be effective. And we do have, did you want to add anything, Francie?
Thank you. Thank you. Fran McManaman, McManaman, Scotland and Bauman, Redevelopment Council to the Borough. So yes, on the agenda tonight is Ordinance 2314 for final adoption. This is an ordinance that's repealing and replacing the borough's prior development fee ordinance. As discussed, these are ordinances that are statutorily required. Every municipality has one. The borough had one. This current ordinance is just bringing the borough's development fee ordinance up to date and making it current with the state's current affordable housing regulations, which have been adjusted since 2019. So the changes that are in the ordinance are the required changes that were reviewed and required by Fair Share Housing and then approved by the court, which is sort of the timeline that brings us up to date. So any adjustments that have been made to the ordinance are a result of a review by Fair Share Housing. As discussed, this ordinance does authorize the collection of fees in connection with some development within the borough. The borough then collects those fees, puts them in the borough's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and then once the spending plan is approved by the court, which has not been done yet, the spending plan is part of the overall Affordable Housing Plan, which is currently being developed and will be presented to the court. Once the court approves the spending plan, at that point the borough can then use the funds that are in the trust fund to be utilized to facilitate construction of affordable housing within the borough. To answer your question, under the 2019 ordinance, the court hadn't approved the spending plan. So even if the borough could have collected the funds, which I'm not sure if it did prior to this administration, those funds couldn't have been spent because we didn't have an approved spending plan. That's what the court's doing now.
Can you give me that back? Yeah, I guess what, I think I understand, but let's just put things into perspective. We had a law. We have a law. Back in August, it passed in 2019, became effective at the end, at the end of that ordinance, it became effective after the date of publication and so on. We also had that law on the books in town here that our land use boards, both the zoning board and the planning board, at the time, they had given approvals, we're told, when any question came up regarding affordable housing, the council of the zoning board and the planning board advised those boards that that would be taken care of by the borough's affordable housing development fee law, which was, like I said, passed in 2019. Now, does that now, what's being proposed here, I guess, is to say, whatever happened before was done for free. But yet we had land use board members that were counting on the developer having to pay affordable housing development fees. Now, are we letting those developers off the hook here now? By moving an effective date now to today? And what's going to stop a new administration later on and say, oh, we're going to invalidate and rescind an affordable housing development fee ordinance and adopt our own? In other words, when do you actually...
Well, I have your question. So let me look into what has transpired since 2019 as far as fees being required. Okay, I don't know of any that were required that weren't paid, but let me look into that because I don't have an answer for you right now because you know, I would have to talk to April as the planning board secretary and find out what fees were required, what has been paid, what's not paid, if it was a condition of approval. So I don't know that right now, so I need to look into that. But
yeah, I believe what you really have to look at, and April can confirm that, is that both Mr. Kennedy and the planning board attorney, that they had started adding catch-all paragraphs to their resolutions when it came to affordable housing. In other words, the subjects never, affordable housing never came up as a subject of the zoning board or the planning board for that matter, because they were relying upon an existing law that we had on the books. Okay? Now, does that invalidate the decisions of those boards now? That if indeed you're not going to collect a developer that got approval in 2019, that's really throwing a monkey wrench into
I'll talk with our Affordable Housing Council regarding that question, but my answer would be, sitting here, no, it wouldn't invalidate anything. If it was required under a previous law, then it's still required now. So that would be my shoot from the hip answer to you. But I'm going to look into your issue because I understand it, and listening to Fran speak, it may be that we should have or can or perhaps did collect that money. I just don't know.
I don't believe any money was collected. However, is there any way to fashion this document that makes the effective date, the original effective date of the original affordable housing development fee ordinance? In other words, back to August of 2019.
Well,
you have to recall that...
Gene, I think you asked a long question, so if we could just break it up because we have some answers. Fran, if you want to provide an answer.
Fran McManaman, yes. The development that was conducted after the 2019 ordinance to the effective date of this new ordinance will be subject to the payments that they were obligated to make under the prior ordinance. This does not retroactively apply to any payments that were due under the 2019 ordinance. Going forward, this ordinance will now take effect. And as far as your earlier question about can a new administration come in and just change the ordinance, these ordinances are approved by Fair Share Housing, in this case also by a consent order to the court. So a municipality can't just change its development fee ordinance. It is subject to review by Fair Share Housing.
Thank you. I guess what I want to make sure is that all the development that had taken place, and by the way, the original ordinance outlined all the grandfathering conditions. In other words, whether you had a planning board approval before such and such a date, or a zoning board approval, or a construction permit. I just want to make sure that's captured, because at the last time that I had looked at this, just with the residential 1.5%, we were talking about $500,000. Okay? I just want to make sure that we're not just throwing away $500,000. And just take a look at Belmar. You'll see residential especially. We went through a whole bunch of development. In fact, we're still going through a lot of development where these properties, their assessed value is being raised. And, you know, don't tell me that this is one of those situations where the train has left the station. In other words, though it's taken this far, this long, to come to a point where, you know, we're talking about actually collecting the money. And in my opinion, that money is owed.
So Gene, can you give us to the next meeting so that we can take a look at it?
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm not demanding that this be approved tonight.
No, you keep asking a question and I don't have an answer for you as far as, you know, what was required and what was not collected, and if we can collect it.
We might not have the exact numbers, but what I can say is this, adopting this ordinance does not impact any prior obligation or approval regarding payment under the prior ordinance. If there was an obligation to pay under the prior ordinance, that obligation will still be in effect. If there wasn't, this will not be applied retroactively.
Okay, thank you.
Comments? Any other comments? Mono?
Lydia Sharkus, 4th Avenue. You answered a couple of my questions, but if we had this on the books from 2019, in what account is the money sitting? Has it any been collected?
I think those are questions that, you know, George is going to...
No, there's no account, there's been no money collected.
Okay, so that's a lot of years to collect. So, would appreciate that.
If it's...
We're going to take a look at it.
Okay.
Permissible to do that.
But
You're right.
Mr. Kramer's been driving at that questions at several meetings, and I'm just surprised it's taken until now to actually have somebody looking into it. So, thank you.
Any other comments?
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-14?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Romanero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next, we have second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2023-15. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 25, buildings, controlling dust and debris from demolition and construction. This is open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak on this ordinance, please step forward and state your name and address. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
And can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-15?
Motion?
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Romanero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next one is second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2023-16. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 18, beachfront and marine regulations, specifically Section 18-2.7, controlling rules and regulations of the beachfront regarding fishing. This is open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak on this ordinance, please step forward, state your name and address. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-16?
Motion?
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
And last one is ordinance 2023-17. This is a bond ordinance reappropriating $909,183.81 in excess bond proceeds not needed for their original purposes in order to finance the cost of various capital improvements. We have a motion to offer this for first reading and introduction.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay. So next we have public session. Just remind everyone to please state your name and address when you come up to the microphone.
Lake First Avenue. I'd like the mayor and council and the town to know that the Belmar Housing Authority, for 4 years, Jim McCracken sat on the board and led us to believe that all was fine. All is not fine. The elevator is dangerous. The residents are scared to use it. And nothing seems to change. There's a vote on the property that's not appropriate. Residents are complaining about the treatment they're receiving from the staff, and they feel they have no help. I want the mayor and council to be aware of this. Thank you.
Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue. After last meeting, I was concerned when I heard that you're not sure if we're moving first aid and the fire engines to 12th and Main. If we're not going there, what is your plan and where are we going to put them? Lake Como is working on their own redevelopment plan, which I don't think is including our equipment. So,
I don't think I can give you a particular answer tonight because we're looking at a lot of different things, but in terms of the property at 12th and Main, you know, the way I see it, there are three options, you know, in front of us. We can move ahead, clean it up, put the EMS building there with whatever was planned originally, or we can do the cleanup and put another municipal building there if we need to, or the third option is clean it up, put the fill in, and then put it back on the market and sell it.
okay, so that last option is my concern. I had an open house this weekend. I had somebody come in whose brother-in-law is interested in acquiring that building so they could come before the board to develop the whole block with lots of townhomes and, you know, you were against development. I don't understand why we spent the money and you consider redeveloping when we could sell off a fire department in the neighborhood and have the benefit of having a couple new houses, as opposed to risking somebody coming in and, you know, creating another lawsuit if you don't grant permission to build, you know, another 4 or 5 story building.
Well, I mean, I don't know that, you know, that's a hypothetical scenario.
It wasn't
You can think of many different scenarios that can come about. I mean, but obviously if somebody wants to build something on a piece of property, they have to get the appropriate approvals, number one. Number two, they need to own all the property. It just as well could be that somebody would purchase that property and put up have a commercial business on the first floor and have two floors above it with apartments. I mean, that's just as possible as your scenario.
Yes, but if it goes on the open market, this person could easily be the buyer of it, and then what are you
I
going to
mean,
do?
you're assuming,
Fail
but
to-
I don't know that we should assume that that's going to happen.
Well, let it be noted, I was just somebody brought that to my attention this past week.
I
And
mean,
that's
the-
really,
The thing we always have to remember that each piece of property that is on the tax rolls is paying for, you know, some of the producing revenue for the borough. So if we put a municipal building on a piece of property, that revenue ceases, okay? And if somebody purchased a property and put something on it, well, then we get revenue for that property. As far as the concern about the overdevelopment, I think that is a different issue that would be addressed when and if someone came and said, oh, this is what we want to do. So, I mean, I don't think we can make decisions on whether we're going to sell a piece of property or keep a piece of property based on what a potential developer might or might not do.
so it's my understanding that you'd be able to put up new houses where the fire department is and have your taxable revenue.
I don't know what, I mean, I'm not going to,
So where would you put the rescue squad?
that's a different issue.
Well, that's the one really that's.
We're not
delayed.
prepared to talk about tonight.
So when might you have that information?
I have
for
no
us?
idea, I'm sorry.
Okay, my next question is, I was happy to hear that you applied for a grant for the marina. Tonight's all about our assets, and one was given away. I'm concerned about the one I just mentioned,
Which one was given away? Just remind me.
the Taylor Pavilion concession stand.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so here we are. We need to work on the fuel dock, so it's good. I hope we don't have any incidents between now and getting that money. But what's happening with the electrical wiring on the, all the docks that's corroded? Is there any plan to have those replaced?
I don't know if Mr. Kane wants to weigh in on this, because we do have plans.
Yeah, I mean, the electric on JK and L docks is starting in November. It supplies, they couldn't start prior to this summer season because of a huge supply chain issue, Billy. I think it was months. So by the time the actual supplies came in to do the work, it was in the middle of boating season. So now they have to wait until after this current boating season. We talked to the contractor today, as a matter of fact, and they're slotted to start in November on that. So that's all going to be done. What we've done with the marina, and we've talked about this at multiple meetings, is there's multiple issues down there, and it seems to go from one crisis to the next. What we're doing is taking a look at the entire picture and putting a marina plan together, and then collectively we're going to prioritize, and the fuel dock is the #1 priority. And then we're going to work down. This could be a multi-year event, you know, to do this correctly, because from a bonding standpoint and how we're going to pay for it through grants and everything else, we need to have the whole picture so we know we're working towards a goal.
I guess it's important to, I appreciate your comments. I think it's important for we people to understand what the plans are when we have such major things that need to be done.
As
So-
Mr. Kane said, this is something that is being worked on.
I
You will
understand.
have, you will have a plan, we will have a plan here, that will be a plan that will exist for the borough of Belmar for the next 5 to 10 years, which will bring the marina up to the point where it should be. And at that point, you know, then the marina will be able to, you know, basically take care of itself in terms of what, you know, its revenue and whatever. But it's a plan. The public will definitely know what the plan is, what needs to be fixed, when it will be fixed, and how much it's going to cost. So we're not going to kick the can down the road and do, you know, little improvements here, little improvements there. This is going to be a comprehensive plan to remedy all of the things that need to be remedied in the marina. Obviously, they can't all be done in a year because we can't borrow that much money. So it'll be done over a period of time. And that'll definitely be for public consumption when it happens. And it's going to happen very soon.
I would also invite you, Linda, we have regular Harbor Commission meetings. The next one will be next Tuesday at 6 o'clock here. This is always discussed. It comes up a lot. The Harbor Commission pushes hard to get these projects through. I know, things like dredging have been talked about for years in the marina, and nothing has happened until now. And we're really looking at it, and those guys take this very seriously, and they talk about what the needs are for the boaters and what the needs are for the town. Those are all public meetings that anyone can come to. Unfortunately, they're very low attendance and low turnout for it, but
So, since you brought it up, when's the dredging starting?
that's part of this plan that Administrator Kane is talking about. Dredging is a very big project, it costs a lot of money, and it takes a lot of planning. It's not something that we can say, we're going to start next year on it. What we can do is plan for it now and understand the scope of what we need to do, how much it's going to cost, and when we can do it. Because there's multiple approval levels when it comes to dredging. It's not just, hey, we want to dredge. There's a lot of state approval that goes along with it as well.
I understand, I'm a planner. My concern is things might be too far gone to wait that long to have some of the work done. But that's my opinion.
I understand. I used to work for a dredging company, so I understand how long these projects do take and the planning that needs to go into them. And I can tell you that when we started here, there was no plan to do dredging. So we are starting at step one here. So step one is assessing the situation, understanding the scope of the project, understanding the cost, and then looking at the necessary approvals that we need to get from the state to actually be able to do it. So it is a big undertaking. No dredging project is small, especially when we're talking about the scale that we have to have. I think the last time the marina was dredged was in the early 2000s. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done there. And right now we're just trying to figure out the scale of what that actually is going to entail.
Okay.
So I promise to keep you updated with as much information as I can.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Come on.
Good evening, Katrina Collapses, Beach Street. I've been away for like 3 weeks, so it seems I missed so much. 3 meetings, not 3 weeks. I just want to ask a question about this proposed ordinance 17. In relationship to the marine improvements, the gas, do we have any idea how much the gas dock is going to cost to repair? Is there any guesstimate? Is there any idea? Have we done any research on that to find out?
It's
No?
going to be over $1 million, at least.
Over $1 million? Okay.
And that's a very, very general number.
Right, okay. So I was just wondering now, because and this is a quarry, because on here that says for this ordinance that you're going to combine everything, there's $150,000 sitting there, right, because it's going to be reappropriated, so that means it's there, right, to do marine improvements. So why aren't we just using that $150,000 towards, I'm confused, I mean, does that make any sense? Mark, is what you're doing with the marina, so that's, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the original appropriation was for.
Well, it says marine improvement, so isn't the gas dock and a marine improvement? Why would we be putting it into, if it's reappropriate, right? Reappropriate means that there's money sitting there, correct? Is that what that we're going to move to something else? So the first one is $150,000, which was taken out in 2013, providing for marina improvement. So why?
It will stay in marine improvement, because we're gonna need a lot more than $150,000.
Right, okay.
But that will be part of it, along with any grants that we do and any bonding that we do.
Okay.
That, with the CFO, sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
What the CFO tries to do is keep this in the same general category. So if it was in the marina prior, it's going to stay in the marina. If it was on the road resurfacing, it's going to stay in roads.
Okay.
That's what this all says.
Okay, so the reason for this, all of this, is this to combine for a better interest rate? I'm just a little confused as to what this means, this
Now,
particular.
this isn't money that's being borrowed. This is money that has already been borrowed.
Right.
And it's just being taken from different bond ordinances that have been done. The projects have been completed, and the money has not been spent.
It's
totally.
extra money.
So what they're doing is the auditors, along with the bond counsel, say you can take all those and just lump them into one bond ordinance, basically saying now what you're going to use that money for. And as the business administrator said, it's basically for the same purposes as the original bond ordinance was for. So if it says, you know, improvements for the marina, well, that means the old bond ordinance, the money that's left over is being used for the marina, but just via a new document.
So why do we need to do that? Like,
It
in
just
other
cleans
words,
it up. It just cleans up the bonds that are just hanging out there.
this excess money that's hanging out there, because this is
Right,
excess
right.
money that we haven't used, right?
Right.
They're closeouts. They're closing out these ordinances, taking what's left and repurposing
And
it.
putting into
That's
another
right.
thing. Okay, okay. All right, good, thanks. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. I'd like to have a question about, and I'm sorry I wasn't here for this, but the geese situation. I'm sorry, I just want to ask. It's my understanding that Mike Campbell had sent an email back in February to DPW to do the patrolling with his dog. Is that something worth considering? Or do you not know about it? Or do you know about it?
Let me, we're not going to ask questions to individuals.
All right, well, I'm asking you,
please.
Mayor, do you know if that is the case?
I now know, yes.
You now know,
And that
yeah.
was in response to no bid proposal. It was just an offer
Okay.
to do something. And we were not, at that point, in a position to say yes or no, because we were going to go out to bid for
Okay,
it.
so are we considering using Mike Campbell and his dog?
Only if he
Yes.
applies when the bid goes out.
Okay, so you're gonna put a bid out for a dog, geese, police kind of a thing?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, and when is that bid gonna go out?
Well, that's what I mentioned in the work session. It was supposed to be going out very soon, but I got delayed.
Oh, I
So it's
missed
going to
that
be
one,
out.
sorry.
It's going to be out probably within a week or so, at
Okay.
least my portion of it. And when it actually gets out to be published, I'm not exactly sure, but it'll be very soon.
Okay, now, I'm sorry, when you say your portion of it, what does that mean versus some?
Well, you know, it's just a matter of purchasing, doing the legal stuff that they have to do. They have to put the dates in, they have to,
Okay.
you know, it has to be advertised, there's steps that have to go on.
Okay,
That's what
okay.
I'm referring to.
Okay, and the last thing I'd like to talk about is ask about is the 12th and Main building.
Mhm.
Okay, we own that building, right? I mean, we mortgage it obviously, but we own that building now. Can I ask what is the holdup, or not holdup, but what are the concerns of this mayor and council about utilizing that property as it was purchased for? Why are we not, are you considering using it for what it was purchased for? And if you're not, could you explain to me why you're not? Because it's a perfect piece of property, it sits where it would be a beautiful building. If we could build it, we could put somebody else, use the 11th, like Linda mentioned, you can use that building, the hook and ladder building, sell that, utilize that towards the cost, and all of those three entities, first aid, water rescue, and fire department, could be housed in that building along with training facilities. So I'm just wondering, what is the concern, why you're not moving forward with that?
I'm going to say what I said before. There's no decision being made at this point as to what that property would be used for.
But why? Why not? I
Because
mean-
there are other things that have to be considered when you're looking at the entire municipality.
Right,
That's
I
all I'm
understand
going
that. I understand that, and so in that, you have a housing situation for our emergency vehicles. And so, where are we gonna put them?
That's our responsibility. We will make sure that the EMS vehicles are housed someplace, and that's all part and parcel of looking at what we're going to use that piece of property for.
Okay, so you are not saying you are not going to use
And I think
that?
I said that already. There's three options. We can use it for what it was intended, we could use it for something else, or we could clean it up and sell it.
Mhm.
You want to add to that?
I think the big concern, it's a contaminated piece of property.
Yes,
And
yeah.
we're looking to remediate it.
Right.
To figure out what we could do with it. You know, it's got to be a clean piece of property before we do anything with it. And
Oh, sure.
right now, the LSRP is still going through this remediation process. So
Well,
that's the number one concern. It was a contaminated piece of property.
Right, but wasn't that already decided what needs to be done, which is tear down the front building and pull the dirt out? Wasn't that part of it?
It's still contaminated. I mean,
Yes.
they're still monitoring. There's 4 monitoring wells. You know, until we know where they're at in that process, I mean, you need a clean piece of
So
property.
you're saying that company does not know what the extent of the contamination is, or do they? Do they know or don't they know?
They're monitoring it and to determine the exact extent.
Well, if you're talking, there's 2 types of contamination. There's water contamination and there's soil contamination. The initial look at the property definitely shows that there's soil contamination around the property. The issue is, as we know, anybody who's dug up an oil tank, you know, if it's leaking, you know, we don't know how far that dirt goes. So it may very well be that, yes, the front part of that building, as they start taking the bad dirt out, and they have to keep taking it out until the contaminants are gone, and now they're going under the building, you know, well, then that portion has to be taken down. We don't know how far that's going to go. It could go the entire lot, so which means that the entire structure might have to be taken down.
Right.
And nobody will know that until a shovel is put in the ground.
Because I thought that there was already some sort, and maybe I'm misinformed, that there was already an amount of money that the company that they hired, the previous administration hired, or contractor, whatever we want to call that, that they felt that there was going to be like $150,000 amount that it was going to cost to do that. They put $300,000.
It was $300,000.
They put $300 in escrow, but they felt that there was $150,000 worth of remediation to be done. So you don't know that you might talk about something you don't know. Okay. So maybe you don't know. So anyway, but one way or another, we have to remediate that property.
Exactly.
Period. Right?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Because that's to me, that's the most important thing. We need to remediate the property as quickly as possible since we're responsible for it now. And then, in whatever way, shape, or form, I personally believe that that's a great location for what it was originally purchased for. Thanks.
Thank you. Want to come up? Come on, Tom.
Tom Volker, 527 8th Avenue, Belmar. Thanks for being up there, guys. Speaking of the senior center, I thought there was an effort as far as the compressors go to do a connection which, if there was a power failure, would switch over to gas. Is that finished? I mean, has that been started, or?
I don't know about the switching over to gas. I know if there's a power failure now in the elevator, now there's a switch that will turn on to the generator. So I suppose that's what you're talking about. That has been installed. So that's not the issue we're talking about. We're talking about the other issues in the elevator because of its age.
Yeah. And the ability to, is it on the list as far as if there's a power failure in town, the generator won't work unless it's working on something else, which would be gas. I know I had to do it at my house. Is that in a program? Is that part of what we're trying to do?
Yeah, they have a generator that'll go on and switch off. It was really the elevator that was the biggest issue with that. And now the elevator does have whatever switch that is that will go straight to the generator.
Okay, thank you. I'm thinking that the separate subject is the speed notification, freestanding signs. I've seen some in Spring Lake, and so I think you know what I'm talking about. Spring Lake even has one that says "I'm awesome," which I appreciate. But there was, last time the chief commented, she said that we're going to get, I think she said we're going to get some of those. So where is that?
Well, I think it's aligned in that bond ordinance that we were just talking about. So, I mean, yes, there's money going to be utilized as noted in the bond ordinance. That will be used for purchasing those.
Have any
speed
been
signs.
placed yet?
What's that?
Have any been placed yet?
Not any new ones.
So we
I know
have,
there's,
so we
I don't know.
have, I don't mean that trailer that has to be.
No, the little ones. The
Yeah.
little- Yeah, there are a few, I don't know how many that we have at this point, but I know they move them around different spots. So we're gonna get more.
These seem more permanent, you know, they're on a pole and it's not the, it's not the trailer item.
Right,
Yeah.
as the mayor had said, we are requesting, it's in the bond ordinance, to purchase them. When the bond ordinance passes, we will purchase them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
now I
wait.
understand, thank you.
Okay, there was someone, yeah, come on.
Debbie Preston, 904 Ocean Avenue. My concern, I guess, or my suggestion is, there was one weekend in July where people had the beach packed by 7 o'clock. So what happened was all the parking spaces were gone. And these poor guards are trying to find places to park. And they're a great group of kids, let me tell you. And my heart goes out to them because some ride bikes, which is great, but the kids that are coming out of town and stuff, I mean, they ride around and around, and that's ridiculous. So my suggestion or thought was, could we just dedicate 2 of the front parking spots to guards for each beach? Well, let's say, 10th and 9th, 2, or 1, but something for these kids to have that they don't continually, and they're not getting on the beach because they can't park their car. And that, I have a concern about that, because it was packed. That beach was packed at 7 o'clock in the morning, which means you didn't get revenue for the beach, because everybody was on the beach by then, and they had nowhere to go. I mean, we actually moved our car to let one of them park because we felt horrible that he couldn't park. That's number 1. Number 2, at the Verizon August 17th meeting, unfortunately, I will not be here, but I'm wondering if it is going to be telecasted, or something that I can see wherever I am what the discussion is about. And the other thing is, I know you were trying to get approval for the board members. You can only have 2 board members at that meeting. And I was wondering if you got approval to have the board present at that meeting.
Well, I think we had a discussion about that, Mr. McGill, about meeting the council.
Yeah, you were trying to see if you
Yeah,
could make
I think
it a different kind of meeting.
you determined that as long as we weren't part of the
Yeah,
board,
it's-
we could just sit there as
So you can't speak.
as members of the public,
Okay.
you know.
Right, we're
thought
all
that would be the
citizens
best.
and we can appear.
Yeah.
It would become a situation if we had to put notice, we would essentially hijack the entire thing, and that's not our intent. So, yeah, I looked at it, we're not actually conducting borough business as a board there, so it's not going to be necessary.
And I will not be there to let everybody know, because I have something I have to do on that evening, so we're going to schedule, but,
Okay, so just if you can consider the whiteboard thing, I mean, it's just an idea.
okay.
As far as telecasting it, I'm a little reluctant only because sometimes that decreases the chance of other elected officials showing up.
Okay.
Shy, and because we're also talking hopefully about legal issues, I don't know if we want
Okay.
to broadcast
Sorry, I
that
won't be there.
But I'll take plenty of
Yeah,
notes.
keep me updated on that.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Sharon Mahoney, 800 Main Street. So I missed the last meeting, but I understand that my name was mentioned, Katie, about the, the noise ordinance. So what is the process? I mean, what's the progress on that piece?
Has it been final approved? Yes, it's done.
Okay, so that is paperwork that is being issued with every permit, construction permit.
That was the plan, April 20.
Yes, we have a document that we can hand out with construction permits.
Okay, has that started yet?
No, but
Okay.
it was emailed to a lot of the contractors that that are doing work now and are pretty regular. So it was emailed to all of them, but we haven't really issued any construction permits that.
Well, they're doing construction, Abater is doing construction inside the Beach House Brewery building. And I spoke to the guy Saturday morning because he was starting before he was supposed to start with the doors open, sawing, milling, whatever. He goes, oh, I didn't know, but I don't care, I'll take a break. He didn't mind waiting until 8 o'clock, and I was just curious.
Well, there are a lot of things that don't require permits also, that people could be doing construction and they don't need a permit, so they wouldn't get that.
I saw that any kind of retrofitting or outfitting of a business is required by permit, right? That's what I found in E-code. Yes, no?
If there's a new business going in, yes, they need permits.
Yes, so Lily is splitting, she's staying on one side, and then they're retrofitting the one next door for a new business, so that would require a permit, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so he didn't understand, or the invoice not flowing down, basically. So my other question regarding that, not necessarily construction, but businesses in general, how are they notified of business, the noise ordinance? They're not gonna look it up. So our mercantile business license is renewed every year. Like somebody comes to Belmar to get a mercantile license. With that license, provide, hey, here are noise ordinance laws for every business in town, right? And then when they renew, give that to them. If you have email addresses, send it out now. Social media, John? Something to communicate to them. Hey, we're trying to promote peace and quiet on the hours where we are allowed to have the peace and quiet, and then just, keep the residents in mind when you're doing this type of leaf blowing at 7 o'clock in the morning just to clear dirt from your sidewalk. You can use a broom, right, Mayor? But I know you like the broom comment. So anyway, I just want to ask if that can be done as well. That would be much appreciated. When I first came up here, I actually was going to say one thing. I think it was an oversight, but we should have had a moment of silence for Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver tonight. She passed away last Tuesday. So should we do that now, or you wait till the beginning of the next meeting? I think that should be done.
Yeah, we do that at the next
Okay,
meeting.
all right, so,
Make a point.
all right. Mark, you mentioned a grant writer, so we hired someone? There was a bid process for that?
That was several meetings ago.
I know, I haven't been here every single meeting, so.
Yeah, so that process was approved already. That was a couple of meetings ago that we hired this.
Is it a company or a person?
A firm.
A firm?
Millennium Strategies.
Millennium? I know, Millennium, okay, thank you. Crosswalk progress. Has a walk been taken through town to determine what streets, what crosswalks need to be, repainted or put in because they're missing? I noticed, I walked from Inlet Terrace all the way to the lake. There are no crosswalks on B Street. There are no crosswalks at any intersection along that road. That's the only one I picked up on. I was like, okay. So someone mentioned one of the last meetings that you're going to be taking a walk through town to note, if anybody here's from DPW, to do that assessment.
I don't know that we've taken that on yet, but obviously we need to look at that when we get a chance to do that.
And that's just one street, I noted, but there are more.
Yeah. I don't know if is there an ordinance or something about crosswalks? I mean, does every street need a crosswalk? I don't know that that's yeah, I mean, because I know there's a lot of streets that don't have it.
Right.
And, I don't know if that's
I don't know of any requirement on the top.
Okay.
Requirement, whether it's state or.
Yeah. All right, yeah, we'll look into that. But again, it has to be done in terms of priority things that DPW needs to do.
We're actually in the process right now of dealing with a company called Traffic Lines, and we're looking to get several roads restriped as far as stop bars and crosswalks and other markings on the road.
Great. I think the one that I also mentioned, which I didn't just mention now, is the one right by the park on 8th Avenue, and is that South Lake, North Lake? I forget which one that is. There's no crosswalk there at all. And kids are walking to the park there, so that's one probably a priority, I would ask. Some of those streets I mentioned on B Street have the ramps for ramps for like a wheelchair or a bike or something. So I would think that those intersections definitely should have some type of, crosswalk. But anyway, Oh, the, regarding the Taylor Pavilion, somebody made a comment, and I just wanted to bring this up. So because of the issue we had this year, do you have a schedule, maybe think about having a schedule for when you're gonna go out for bid for that building next year? Like, have that plan in place?
I missed the first part here.
The Taylor Pavilion?
Yeah.
So this year there was a lot of misunderstanding about, you know, bids for that, whatever, so next year, we have a plan in place early enough to get those, you know, requests for bid out, you know?
We can,
Yeah.
we'll figure that out, because we still want to put the bathrooms in there.
Put the bathrooms in, oh, okay, gotcha.
Taylor Pavilion.
Yeah, gotcha. I think that was it for now. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Any other comments? Come on up.
John Walsh Sr., B Street. Just to hit on the crosswalks, I live on B Street, and every road from the lake to, I don't know about the lake because there's no stop sign there, but every road is a four-way stop sign, so I don't think we need crosswalks because they have to stop. And the other thing was about the gas station / EMS thing. That was put on your laps, right? You came into office?
It was purchased, yeah, it was already owned by Borough.
So the price is, I heard 150,000. Well, that's fantasy land. If you think you're going to get it done for 150,000. Me, myself, I thought it was a good idea right there, but then I looked at it, and you got the school right there. You're going to have emergency traffic, you got people picking up their kids. I don't think it's a good idea. But, yeah, and when you do the contamination, they just don't do what those tanks were. They stored cars on that lot. So that lot where those cars were stored, that's all going to have to be removed. So that's why I said about 150,000, fantasy land. That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I also live kind of on B Street, and there are, and I like it because there are 4 stops, but that doesn't mean people stop. So just, you know, but if we get the big stop signs painted, it might help also. Okay. Not May 24th, that was my brother's birthday. September 24th. The New Jersey Run for the Fallen is going to be running through Belmar once again. I don't know if anybody's really familiar with it, but it's a group of people. They start out in Cape May, and they run up to the Art Center, where the Vietnam Memorial is, and there's over 225 miles that they put in, over 4 days. And Sunday the 24th, the last day, is when they run through Belmar. I didn't even know about it myself, and my cousin is one of the hero markers throughout this. And it started 15 years ago. And on the 24th at approximately 9:07, but they can be here half an hour early, we've seen two, at the corner of Ocean and North Boulevard, there's a hero marker for Carlos Gonzalez, who happens to also be the son of a coworker of mine from UPS. And then down at the flagpole across from Taylor Pavilion, around 9:21, there's one for Campbell McKenna, who lived in Neptune. The fire engines, usually they come out for us and put the flags up and everything, and it's a memorable event. I mean, my sister and I, one time, we were down visiting a cousin in Absecon, and no, actually in Avalon, and we ran into it for the very first day, and then the next day, we went to Absecon for another coworker's son, and then we hit our cousin in Bayhead, and then over here in Belmar. So it's really a neat thing to get everybody coming out, and you can't imagine how much the families truly appreciate it, because when there was never anything done, and then I was able to spearhead it and get everybody out there and get the fire engines, the families were just like overwhelmed. So September 24th.
Now, do they touch base with the police department and Or is that what you're doing now?
State troopers are,
Okay.
they lead it through. There's a van that comes through first that has a...
No, but I mean in advance. Do they let, you know, what you just said about them being here at a certain time, in a certain place? Do they need streets closed? Do they need,
this went on for 15 years and nobody even knew about it. Nobody knew about it, did anything about it.
How does the fire department know to be there?
The past 4 years, they've been, Chief Scott or Drew would let them know, or the mayor, and to come out. I don't have the contact for the fire, otherwise I would do it myself. But I'll shoot an email with all the details and the history and everything.
We don't want to let it slip through the cracks.
No, definitely not after, because they're going to be, families will be expecting it.
Let us know.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll be sure to announce it at the next meeting too.
Great,
So
thank you.
Any other comments?
Maria Florio, 115 12th Avenue. Can you tell me what the schedule of the street cleaner is?
I can't,
Two
but
weeks,
maybe
well,
Billy
I
can.
know. 2 weeks ago, 11 o'clock in the morning, all the cars are parked, and here comes the sweeper. And I feel so bad because I yelled at the driver. I said, "You gotta be kidding, when are you cleaning?" So, I don't know,
Well, he
gotta
said
be
every,
done because they're not cleaning the streets.
every day he starts at like, probably 3 or 4 in the morning, and he hits Main Street, Ocean Avenue, Borough parking lots, and then once he's done with that, he gets on his route. A lot of times, by that time, traffic's in town.
So why
cars are-
bother? What is
Well-
it sweeping? It's our tax money, you know.
Well, we also have to sweep in accordance with the Clean Community Act and stormwater management. So he has to be out there. We have to get the job done. So
Well, maybe.
it's just a little. Sometimes it's difficult
In the
in the summer
wintertime, no
months.
problem because there aren't any cars.
Yeah.
But during the summer, I don't know what you would do. You can't say alternate side. I mean, these kids don't even pay attention to the sign. But anyway.
Having lived in the same city though, Maria, we could do alternate side of the street parking. You know, we could do that. You remember that, don't you?
Jersey City.
Yeah, you remember
Come
that.
Wednesday and Friday, did they?
We could do that, and all the streets would get cleaned.
Absolutely, and that's a city, and here we have.
But I mean, that's,
I do notice though, there are the boys and the girls that walk around with the garbage.
yeah.
bin. That's good to see, I'm glad to see that. And
But you don't want alternate side of the street parking to clean up.
hey, I have a 4-car garage.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm in love, sometimes I see them going around and around, I say, would you like to park here? But God forbid,
Oh,
you
don't do
can't.
that.
You gotta have a license. But anyway, I felt so bad because I yelled at the
I know.
drivers. And Sandra said, my daughter, she says, "Mom, did you hear yourself?"
Don't abuse the DPW workers, please. They work hard.
When you answer.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Gene Kramer, I'll speak up. Gene Kramer, 4th Avenue. A couple months back, Mayor, I think you had mentioned that the DEP had trouble with our trailer hookups down on Ocean Avenue. Maybe you can give us an update on that, or I don't think you explained at the time. I'm just curious. Is the problem the concrete slab?
We haven't heard from them since, just to jump to the end. But the problem was the concrete slabs were considered permanent structures. And according to the regulations is you cannot put any permanent structures on the beach. So they were saying that those slabs would have to be removed. So it wasn't so much the trailers, it was what the trailers were sitting on. But we have been working with them, our engineer, in terms of trying to see whether or not some of those sites can be grandfathered in to previous sites that were there prior to the law going into effect that required the removal of certain things. So I know Jim has been working on that. We got some Oprah requests in, and he got some charts. I don't know that we've we've looked at that recently because of the other things that are going on, but I expect we will be having to resolve that once the summer's over.
Yeah, I do have the original CAFRA permit, the plans that were approved by the state. And I did look at least the 6th Avenue one over by the Taylor Pavilion.
Right.
There, on the approved plan, there was no concrete foundation.
Right.
So somebody had installed that sometime since, say, 2012 and today. But yes, that appears to me that that's a legitimate violation that had occurred and needs to be straightened out. I have had some correspondence. Oh, by the way, the other thing I wanted to mention about was the other day I was on the boardwalk and I did see that there was some signage put up down there close to the boardwalk identifying beach amaranth, which is an endangered species. And I feel it appeared to me that that might have been done by the DEP, and I'm glad that the DEP is paying close attention to our beachfront. I have had some correspondence with the Department of Environmental Protection regarding the Verizon's proposal, the 20 towers, and I had acquired from them a jurisdictional determination that a CAFRA permit would be required. I did see that a copy of that did go to the borough construction official, and a copy had also gone to the Toms River office. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think we really, number one, I think it's fine that everybody's talking to the county and trying to get people to support on board, but quite truthfully, the critical path to that Verizon's proposal is the CAFRA permit. All this other stuff is, quite truthfully, it's like it's a sideshow. But our best chance of putting an end to it is to have the DEP deny the CAFRA permit. And I think one way that we should certainly try to get DEP support and have their commissioner deny the issuance of a CAFRA permit is that we follow their instructions regarding the beachfront, and I mean to the letter. In my correspondence with them, they regulate the sand that's below the boardwalk, the sand that falls through the cracks. And actually, Belmar does not have an engineered beach. There is no limit to the inland boundary of the beach. That boardwalk and all the pavilions are mounted on piled foundations that stand above the sand. It's a flow-through design. And as far as the DEP is concerned, they don't really care whether the ocean reclaims land and takes it back to sea. And the beach could actually go across Monmouth County Route 18. We have a unique situation here and a sensitive environmental coastal environment. And that will be the pathway to any success of putting an end to Verizon's proposal. You have to elevate it. You're dealing with the Federal Communications Commission. You have to elevate it to a federal level. A CAFRA permit is the Coastal Zone Management Act of 1972. It's federal legislation. So that's the permit that we want to get denied.
Well, hopefully they will do what they need to do.
If and when Verizon makes the application, certainly the municipality will get notice.
And we just actually, we just checked on that today, and we have not gotten any copies of any CAFRA permits from Verizon. So
We are very well aware of the importance of the CAFRA permit, and we're working with different experts to try and formulate craft as much as we can a message to DEP on our behalf. So, yeah, I mean, yes.
The interesting thing will be whether or not the federal, FCC regulations supersede the CAFRA permit. In other words, will Verizon be able to say, well, we have the FCC regulations here, and you technically don't even need the CAFRA permit. We'll just put them where we want to put them. I mean, that's a legal question. I don't know that that's been tested anywhere, but in my mind, that would be Verizon's possible counter to CAFRA. But again, it's up to the lawyers involved to fight that out.
Well, those parties that have been successful have raised it up to the federal level. Native Americans, right-of-ways within Native American territories, they have pushed back on, and that's because that's under the Federal Department of the Interior. Likewise, in town here, we have railroad right-of-ways. They have, FCC does not have the power to blow by the railroads. Likewise, by the way, we have a railroad right-of-way at Railroad Avenue, which would probably require the railroad, New Jersey Transit's approval before they put 5G down there. And likewise with federal pipelines and transmission line right-of-ways, the FCC does not have.
Thankfully, we don't have any of that right now. We don't have any pipelines coming through, but we're doing our best to keep their feet to the fire, so to say.
Yeah, well, of course, until such time as Verizon actually makes an application for a CAFRA, there's not much that you can do.
We don't know.
Other than gathering support like you're doing. And certainly, when it comes to the county, they would have the opportunity to weigh in on that when the DEP does publish that Verizon has filed an application. Actually, I don't see anything right now. Verizon could file their CAFRA permit application at any time. They don't need the signature of a property owner.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot one more important thing, and you guys know what it is. I emailed you today. So this is regarding the boom car thing, nuisance motor vehicles, they call it. So just to provide more information than what was introduced at the beginning of the meeting. The S3131/A-4686 was signed into law by Acting Governor Nick Scutari. Most of the information I have was from back in June, and then I'd given you guys an email, I think it was mid-June, about the information. Governor Murphy had until November to actually sign this, but thank God it came early. Christmas came early. So as I understand it, each municipality now has the power to enact, put an ordinance into place with the fees, all those regulations around this law. So it doesn't just happen, so we still have to create an ordinance. Mr. Miguel, correct? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at it.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. All right. So, yeah, so just to expand on what Maria said earlier, sorry, Councilman Rondonier, it's not just a fine. So in the first offense, snowmobile, all-terrain vehicle, dirt bike, nuisance motor vehicle shall be also impounded for no less than 7 days. And then second offense is 14 days. And then if they don't claim their vehicle, it sits there. We have I don't know if it's us or the state has a right to sell it at public auction. So there's a lot of pieces of this that are beneficial to us, and to send a note or send a message out to these, The only thing I wasn't happy with was they seemed to limit it just to music or noise from the car. It didn't say, and I did email Governor Murphy after the May bill passed the houses, to include the sound from the muffler that's not muffled. Although that is a law technically, But I don't know, we can also add to that and say, okay, our ordinance is gonna include, you know, the noise that is emitted from, that sounds like a gunshot or something that's not muffled, you know, in addition to that. So it's much more powerful than, you know, it was kind of skimmed over before. So I'm looking forward to, you know, hopefully getting this, an ordinance into place, and also we need to communicate this to the community, social media, you know, whoever watches the page to say, oh, let's go to Belmar tonight. Oh, we can't do that. Or say, you know, at least to warn them that this is now in place. And let us be a leader, not a follower. Don't wait for someone else to do this first. Like, the state gave us this tool now. I'm not sure when the official law will come down to the municipalities or how that all works, but I really want to be first to the gate, because we're the ones who have had most of the problems, you know, along the coast, aside from Wildwood. And then a lot of this stuff was actually started by people having the boom parties along the Delaware River. That's where this sort of come from. That's what they called it. They would line their cars up and they would echo across the river, and it was the homes, the residents there that were just getting frustrated with these boom parties, and like they couldn't do anything about it. So that's sort of where it came from, but we're benefiting from that because it's sort of the, you know, in the same realm of the noise, they call it nuisance, the nuisance vehicles, so.
As I have it here, and I was looking through it over the last couple of hours, but it looks like it's a modification of the Title 39 statute, which just adds the definition of a nuisance motor vehicle, which is an interesting thing. I'll just read this so I can get a reaction from our council here. And it says, as used in this section, nuisance motor vehicle means a motor vehicle in which a person operates or amplifies the sound produced from a sound system within the motor vehicle so that the sound is plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet or more from the motor vehicle. So I don't know how, you know, that's the rule. It's got to be, so we'll see how that plays out. If they get any guidelines from the Attorney General's office or whatever, let's see how that
So the police
goes.
officer says, I heard it 50 feet away,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
says guilty.
We're going to need 50-foot poles, and then
I have an idea where you can get those, actually.
but yeah, we will look at that, and whatever needs to be done will be done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. April?
Can I have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.